Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Kmet and my co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jason. How's it going?
It's good. We're a little late this week. I was away, so instead of our Sunday night for Monday morning release, we're going to have a Monday night for Tuesday morning release.
Yeah, I think we both had pretty busy weekends, so no issue with the one-day delay for me. But yeah, excited to chat. How are you doing?
Good. It's weird, like World Cup's over, man. Like, is it going to be like a World Cup hangover now? Like, is it going to be weird to not have games anymore? It almost feels like it will be because it just really became sort of really ingrained for the past 5 weeks or whatever.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. I'm sure I'm going to feel some World Cup withdrawal. Fortunately, once you get to the quarterfinals and semifinals, you have a few days between games, so you can kind of get used to not having a game to put on the TV. But yeah, there was definitely some sadness when I realized that the tournament was finally over. It was a long World Cup, I'm not going to lie. It was 5.5 weeks or something like that. But no, I think it's for the best that it has come to a conclusion. How did your World Cup final watching experience go?
Well, it turned out okay in the end. It was a bit of an unknown setup. We were camping and we drove into Brooks and we went and found a place to watch there. So we just had a meal and timed it out so that we would eat our meal and watch the match. And worked out pretty well. A little bit different than, say, watching it in the living room or whatever. But I thought it turned out pretty well. How about you?
Mine was okay. I just watched it from home. We did have friends over, but for a different reason, just for a barbecue in our backyard. So I mostly watched it by myself or with my daughter, who is still a baby. So a little weird, and I was being kind of antisocial. But it was a pretty underwhelming final. So I didn't really regret not making a big event out of it like I have for previous World Cup finals.
So I guess now we're going to have a chance to really turn our attention back to the local soccer scene. And this is our recap episode where we go over the results from last weekend. And actually, I guess we even have a preview as well for a midweek game.
Yeah, a rare Wednesday night game for the Calgary Wild. And yeah, those games you mentioned, we'll talk about Cavalry FC's home game against Halifax, the second time Halifax has come to town this season. And we will also review Calgary Wild's home match against the Montreal Roses. I think it's like the fourth time that these two teams have played this season. And then as per usual, we'll have our Alberta Premier League review and preview.
Yeah, so might as well get to it.
Hi, this is Tobias Waszewski. You're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So let's start with Cavalry FC. They welcomed Halifax Wanderers to Spruce Meadows on Saturday afternoon. Expected a win, Jason, but without Tommy Wheeldon Jr. in the dugout, the team could only scrape together a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, Cavalry has a very, very strong record against the Wanderers over the years, especially at Spruce Meadows. But it's not completely unblemished. Like, they have, dropped some points over time. And this was another time where would be a match where you would kind of expect the 3 points. But from what I saw, and I didn't see the whole match, it's just one of those matches where maybe it didn't quite come together to get the 3 points.
Yeah, I have to confess, I also didn't catch this match. We had a family reunion on Saturday, but it was only the second time in Cavalry history that Tommy Wheeldon Jr. was not in the dugout. Head coaching duties were given to his brother Jay Wheeldon, and I believe Nick Ledgerwood as well. But yeah, a point is a bit disappointing just considering, like you said, Cavalry has such a promising overall record against Halifax, and Forge did pick up a win on the weekend. So Cavalry dropping 2 points means the gap between first and second is now 4 points instead of 2. But in terms of the game itself, Jason, I mean, a pretty quiet first half, no goals to speak of. An early Tobias Waszewski penalty kick in the 52nd minute. And then about 25 minutes later, Halifax equalized through their top scorer of 2026, Isaiah Johnson, his 6th of the season.
Yeah, that was quite a rocket that he launched there to get that tying goal. Pretty good strike.
Yeah, I feel like he knew the second that left his boot that it was sailing into the net. He wasn't very far out, but he just put his foot through it and had a perfect connection. And yeah, I think it was a cross and then a failed clearance by Cavalry. And then he was around the penalty spot and just smashed it bottom right. Nate Ingham was never going to save that one.
So as you mentioned, Cavalry's second place and they're 4 points behind Forge. they still have a pretty good lead compared to third place. Ottawa has 18 points, so they're 9 behind, and they've played one extra match. So the cushion between second and third is still pretty good, but it's a little disappointing to drop some points against Forge. Next match for the Cavs is Friday night in Vancouver, where they're going to be playing the red hot Vancouver FC Ravens, I guess.
Yeah, Jason, I kind of raised my eyebrow when I checked the CPL standings today and saw Vancouver FC is up to 4th place. And obviously, they went out of the cup on the 12th, so just a week ago or so, but they're coming off a 5-1 win over Super de Quebec. And before that, they had a 4-0 win over Inter Toronto. And before that, they lost narrowly to Forge 3-2. So yeah, for Vancouver's, considering their recent history, like this is a really good run of form for them.
For sure. And yeah, we'll definitely talk about that more in our episode later this week. This match does seem to be a bit more intriguing. Another thing I'll just mention about it, though, is Gauthier Natigny will miss this match due to yellow card accumulation. So he will not be after this match. That'll be one key member of Cavalry not there. But yeah, like I said, we can talk more about it later in the week. A little bit more to look forward to than your typical Vancouver FC match.
Hi, this is Maya Jones. This is the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, let's talk about the Calgary Wild. And they played a match on Friday night lights, and they played the Montreal Roses, and another loss to Montreal.
Yeah, another loss to Montreal. 2-0 this time. Their loss without scoring for the Wilds. Another game I didn't catch the entirety of, Jason, but based on the highlights and the statistics, doesn't look like the Wilds really stood a chance in this one. Only 4 shots compared to Montreal's 18. And yeah, Montreal just, a stronger team and a little more clinical on the day.
2-0 for Montreal, and I wasn't able to watch this game either, but from what I could tell, there wasn't a lot of signs that they were in this match too much. So even though we weren't at the match, we did get some of the comments from Leah Blaney on her first match in the dugout for the Wild. And a couple things that I thought I would just mention about what she said. She was impressed with the general effort and the fight of the team, but she did make a comment too about, being aware of the lack of depth on the back line and how that can be easily fixed.
Yeah, and obviously we're now into the transfer window, so hopefully we'll see a defensive signing or two for the Wild. We've speculated all summer really that Isabelle Monk will be signed. However, Jason, this was the last game that Isabelle's sister Clara was eligible to play for the Wild. She'll be packing her bags and going to Kent State.
The Golden Flashes. Apparently, there's been talk that there could be a new American player signing with the Wild. And I was kind of told it was going to happen earlier in the week, but it didn't happen today. So maybe we're going to find out something soon about new players coming in. We know that Michelle Romero has left the team. That was announced on Friday. She's apparently off to Brazil. So anyway, that's one more open roster spot. How do you feel about Michelle Romero leaving the team, Scott?
I think she showed glimpses last season. She was a mid-season acquisition and had some promising performances at left back, which was a position that until then had mostly occupied by Ali Green. But this season has just not been a good one for Michelle Romero. So I don't know if the Wild fans will be missing her too much for the remainder of the season.
It seemed like she had lost the confidence of Sinead McSherry. She had been gone from starting position to mostly being on the bench. The player turnover begins. And like I said, maybe we're going to see a new addition, perhaps even before the match on Wednesday. And we should probably segue and talk about that next.
Yeah, so quick-ish turnaround for the Wild. They'll be back in action at McMahon Stadium Wednesday night. I don't think they've had too many midweek games, Jason, so I'm not sure what that will mean for attendance, but kickoff is going to be at 7 p.m. This game is going to be broadcast on TSN, but it's going to be a tough one. They're going to be hosting Ottawa Rapid, who've beaten the Wild in both previous meetings this season. And Ottawa are coming into this one as they did last time in first place with 28 points on 12 matches.
Yep. And the 2 times that Ottawa and Calgary have played each other, they were both in Ottawa. In May, Rapid won 5-2. And earlier in this month of July, they won 3-1.
Yeah, so they've definitely conceded a lot of goals against Ottawa, but on a more promising note, they have scored 3. So a decent chunk of their goal output for the 2026 season have been against the league leaders.
This is Mila Schneider, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So let's turn our attention to the Alberta Premier League. We've got a bunch of results to talk about from Friday night, and there was also a match on Sunday night, so we might as well start running through them here. The first one we can talk about is Cavalry FC 2 played the Rangers men, and Cavalry 2 won 3-1.
Yeah, good result for Cavalry 2, though not unexpected when looking at the table. Goals for Cavalry came from Owen Antoniuk and Lucas Correa. Owen Antoniuk scored a brace. Rangers' goal came from MRU player Hyansu Ryu.
We always like to kind of talk about what players of the Cav senior squad appeared in this match. And I guess as indicated, Owen Antoniuk, who scored a brace, he started this match, as did James McGlinchey. There weren't any mile on sightings for this one. He has been kind of appearing in some of their matches, but he was on to this one.
And then at Broadview, there was a doubleheader featuring Billings and Callies. On the men's side, this was a 1-0 win for Billings. Is that just their second win, Jason?
Yeah, it is their second win.
Their second win of the season. Their goal coming from Daniel Baburi. And then on the women's side, this was also a Villains win, though much more comprehensive, with Villains beating Callies 6-1.
Villains goals, Amy Fallows got a brace, Danielle Lehman got a brace, Ella Tate and Isabella Chance. And for Callies, Daniela Juarez got the only marker. It's been kind of a rough year this year for Callies, both on the men's and women's side.
Yeah, down the table. I wanted to ask, Danny Juarez, isn't that the MRU player who scored that second half goal to beat Dinos in the last game of the regular U Sports season?
Yes, that is her.
Okay, I knew I recognized that name. But yeah, no, like you said, a forgettable campaign for Callies, both for the men and the women this year.
And let's move on over to the West Soccer Dome, and Calgary Blizzard were playing St. Albert Impact. Couple of key matches. Both Blizzard men's and women's team are vying for the championship. The men had an easy time of it. They won 5-1.
Yeah, Moel Gandor with a brace, and then the other goals for Blizzard coming from Dominic Animali, Marco Plenzik, and Willie Omarenier. And on the women's side, this was a 2-2 draw with Erica Misko and former podcast guest Ashlyn Phillips scoring for Blizzard. Up in Edmonton, another doubleheader with important ramifications in terms of who's going to win the APL this season. On the women's side, a 2-2 draw with Foothills' goals coming from Grace Mosala and Izzy De Palma. And on the men's side, this was a 1-0 win for BTB.
So that really puts a dent in Foothills' chances on the men's side. I guess we'll do a bit of a table review in a minute, but yeah, that was a kind of a killer for their chances, unfortunately. So,
and then the other game from the weekend, which was a makeup game between Billings and Rangers on the men's side, kind of a battle between two teams at the wrong end of the table, finished in a 1-1 draw with recent podcast guest Massi Jabali scoring for Billings and then Jace Shaw scoring for Rangers.
So yeah, let's look at the men's table, and it is tight there. And as I mentioned, Foothills, they are right on the precipice of being eliminated.
Yeah, they find themselves 5 points back of BTB with just 2 games to go. BTB is on 31 points and Blizzard is on 30, but Foothills, with their dropped points this match day, are on 26. So they actually have to win every match. They have to win their last 2 games of the season, and BTB have to lose their last 2 games of the season in order for Foothills to win. And that would also require Blizzard to also not get more than 1 point in their last 2 games.
In the women's table, Wild U23, they're on top with 25 points, and they've played one less match than most of their rivals on the table right now. They've only played 11 matches. So 25 points, 11 matches, and then Blizzard and Foothills close behind.
Yeah, Blizzard on 24 points, Foothills on 23 points. So just the 2-point gap between the teams in first, second, and third. BTB find themselves 2 points back of Foothills, so they are on 21 points. St. Albert, rounding out the top 5, they're on 15 points, however, have only played 10 games. So if they win those 2 games in hand, they would actually be tied with BTB on points.
So BTB and St. Albert are mathematically alive, but realistically speaking, it would be really pretty hard to fathom that they could jump to the top of the table at this point. But here's the thing, Scott, the Wild U23 team is in a very good position, but if this is going to be for who represents Alberta in the 2027 Canadian Championship, that would mean that the best non-Wild U23 team would be the qualifier.
Yeah, who at the moment would be most likely contested between Blizzard and Foothills.
So there is kind of an extra element of intrigue there, because even if you don't win the title, there still might be the chance to represent next year.
And Wild U23, on that note, they will be in action this Tuesday evening. They're taking on Rangers at Weber at 5:15. And that's actually a doubleheader because on the men's side, Cavalry 2 will be playing Rangers right afterward at 7:30.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the YYC Soccer Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, so new episodes are waiting for you as soon as they're released. Visit our website, yycsoccer.com, for our complete archive and links to purchase Scott's book, Here Come the Cavalry. It's all about the history of professional soccer in Calgary. We'd love your feedback. Leave us a question on the website. Connect with us on Instagram, X, or Blue Sky. Our username is YYCSoccer403. If you have a moment, leave us a review. It really helps other soccer fans discover the show with the algorithm. We'll be back soon with more stories from Calgary's soccer community. Until next time, keep supporting local soccer, and we'll see you at the match.